Good morning and welcome to day 40 of Geriatric 1944's Coronavirus Diaries. I don't know what offends me more, when a government deliberately lies or actually pretends to the public. For example, 122,000 tests today, says Matt Hancock, the health secretary. And then it's revealed that that includes tens of thousands of Royal Mail send-out home tests that they've only sent and not had returned. So they've probably gone straight in the bin, like bowel cancer tests go straight in the bin. And yet Matt Hancock was well aware of the fact that they were doing this massive mail out today, or actually yesterday, Friday, and that as a result they would all be counted. And so actually the tests, which probably are 60,000, 50,000, would look as though they were 100,000 or over 100,000. And he could gleefully tell us that 122,000 tests today. It's bollocks, Matt Hancock. I hate it when the government lies to us, but I hate it even more when they assume correctly that the media are stupid enough and the public are gullible enough to fall for it. I have to say, an awful lot of people are now beginning to think, you know what, this whole thing is a con. We've been lied to again and again. More and more people are starting to realise coronavirus is a fairly trivial virus to the vast majority of people, and a few people who it's very serious to need serious hospital treatment, and a tiny percentage of those end up going on ventilators, and about half of those die. Yeah, well, there you go. In the scheme of things, it's fairly trivial. If you look at the deaths around the world, which has been in all the papers, what astonishes me is that 4 countries, the UK, France, Italy and Spain, are responsible for 100,000 of those deaths. And so far there's been about 200,000 deaths. The USA is responsible for another 60,000 of those deaths. Why? Because the USA, in which 1 million people are infected, has 330 million people in their population. That's why the deaths amount is so high. In fact, the ratio of deaths to population in the USA is tiny. And after those 160,000 deaths, the remaining 40,000 are spread all over the world in tiny amounts. I think the biggest amount after the big 5 is 7,000, and then 6,000 and below that, and most are under 1,000. And you think, this is not a biblical plague of vast proportions. For God's sakes, media has hyped the whole thing. Governments have fallen for media hype, being completely useless and incompetent. They've clamped down, locked down entire countries, ruined economies, caused mass suicides, stopped people going to hospital for cancer treatment, hundreds and hundreds of extra deaths because of the clampdowns and the lockdowns, and nobody dares call them out. I find that frightening. Anyway, back to music, because I know that's what you're interested in mainly. James, my brilliant assistant, who's been working for me now for 15 or 16 years and mainly deals with putting lots of stuff online, has finally managed to put the whole of my King of Hits box set, which is 8 CDs, each one containing 22, 23 tracks on it. So virtually at 200 CDs, it's 200 tracks on them, all online. And of course, the poor guys had to be listening to them all as they all go online with all the credits. And he's been particularly fascinated by a couple of them. One of them in specific, which actually he recognised a riff that a very, very well-respected indie musician did in 2004 or 2005. And he thinks I was completely ripped off from, which is possible because it was released in America. It didn't turn into a hit, but it was my comment on the American attitude to the world. And I remember why I wrote it. It was Spiro Agnew, who was, I think, vice president to Nixon, or one of those very early American presidents years ago, and asked why he hadn't gone to visit some slum or whatever. He said, "When you've seen one ghetto, you've seen them all." I don't know if he actually did say that or if the media made it up, but quite a comment. And as a result, I wrote the following song, which I bring to you for your amusement today. See you tomorrow, and have a listen to What You Think Is Just a Joke Is America Today.
If I were to tell you that a pop group had made a record a little while back called I'm Dreaming of a Black Christmas, you'd think I was joking, wouldn't you? And if I told you that the vice president of one of the hugest countries in the world had once said something like, "When you've seen one ghetto, you've seen them all," you'd think I was joking, wouldn't you? Well, what you think is just a joke is America Today. And if I were to laugh and say that the lawyer president of a big western country had once publicly called a man guilty whilst he was still being tried for murder, you'd think I was joking, wouldn't you? And if I were to tell you that one of the largest countries in the world was fighting a war in the East and that half her soldiers were stoned out of their minds on marijuana, you'd think I was joking, wouldn't you? Well, honey, what you think is just a joke is America Today. And if I were to tell you that there is a city built over the cracks of a known future earthquake, full of people smiling and laughing, aware of their fate but ignoring it, you'd say you've got to be joking, wouldn't you? Well, honey, what you think is just a joke is America Today.